Like I could easily sell Legend, but in terms of what I want it to be, I can't. Right. So I think there's two different versions. Right. Can I sell my business? Can I sell Legend Initiative? Yes. We have recurring revenue. We have systems in place. But in terms of what I want it to be, like in 10 years from now, I don't think I can like physically or like mentally come to terms with like selling my business. I don't think if I presented it that way, that people, because I do present that a lot, and people more so want to invest in it than buy it. But yeah, I think that's kind of my answer. There's two different ways that I will look at it.
I was thinking about you specifically earlier because I was trying to organize my thoughts with my Gemini. And one of the things, and I don't know if this applies to you, but I was thinking, I know you mentioned you're top heavy with your clients. You've got like the big ones, the top. Maybe you've sorted that out since. But like well, for one, would you be ready to sell? Would your clients stay if you left? If you lost your top, and this is not directed at you, I'm just saying you were in my mind. If you're, sorry, letting somebody in. If your top one or two clients left, would that crumble the business? Just thoughts that you don't necessarily need to share, but um, stuff I wanted to put out there. Yeah, go ahead.
I guess I need to raise my hand so I'm answering kind of a
Mhm.
question. Um, so a win that I didn't mention in the group, worked that out probably like in April. Uh, but would I be able, like, if I leave, would my clients leave? That's a good ass question. I don't know if I know the answer. I could think that they'll stay, also because I don't do most of the work anymore. Right? I think I'm a part of another mastermind group, and one of the questions was asked, "What do you think you are?" Right? Like, what is the story that you tell yourself that you think you are to your business, and you're still operating that way even though you outgrown it? I still think like I'm one of the best like writers and content creators on my team. They do not. And they constantly be like, why are you working on this campaign? Like, go get us some money, go get us some new clients, go start an initiative. Like, what are we doing? Like, things of that nature, which is my primary role now. Like, go out, get business, build partnerships. Obviously, I still lead the initiatives. Like, I want to do this because Legend is still an extension of kind of my vision of what I want to do. But in terms of like the day to day work, where it's like, oh, develop this campaign, develop this marketing strategy, I still do kind of lead the campaign in a sense because it's fun, right? I like strategy. But in terms of like the social media or the PR or talking to the journalists, they don't really need me that much. So I think it can survive. I think people will still gravitate towards it, kind of like how people gravitate towards me, depending on who I would make the successor of the company, right? I think if somebody wanted to buy the company, I can't just say, "Oh, this is a nice price" and give it to it and it'll work, right? It'll be more like, "You want to buy this company? Who the hell are you?" And like evaluating like the values, the vision, like basically hiring somebody else to buy this company from you in a sense. And I think that's where it would get complicated in terms of keeping the clients that we already have, because most of the clients that we have don't come to us just because we're good at what we do. It's more so they come to us for the leadership side of things. Like they want us in their corner. And I think that's a hard sell for anybody that just wants to say buy a marketing and PR agency just because of the vision and the values behind it that makes us great, if that makes sense.
1000% that makes sense. Gary.
So Nate, your whole company, your whole person has a very definite direction and a very definite reason for being. And I think the only way that selling that company could work and stay the same is if you instilled that reason for being so deeply into the culture and into the future owner that it continued with the soul that you've given it. Because your company has soul.
I agree.
I feel that. Yeah. Um, I've done a couple sales. Clients have sold their businesses. The first one I did, uh, the owner sold internally, owner finance to his general manager. So, and it was a long, arduous negotiation. And part of the contract included, well, for one, he knew he was giving the business to somebody who was gonna represent the brand well. This guy built this brand in the early 80s, um, built it into a several million-dollar company, landscape company. And his GM was a lot like him personality-wise, similar, like personal history. And there were things in the contract which I know I don't work with the new buyer. Um, there were things in the contract that were like I have to stay on for 2 years. And I'm getting paid as a contractor plus the buyout structure. Um, he had a clause in the contract that the buyer's wife was not allowed to participate in any way until the previous owner was gone. That did not happen. I know that that did not happen because that's why I had to exit. But I just think I'm thinking like if someone were to come buy my business, bizbuysell.com, you can go on there, look at business listings just for fun. Um, there's CPA firms for sale all the time around there, around here, around everywhere. And it's how a lot of firms grow. They'll buy a book of business. But I think my brand has soul too. And I think that people choose me not, yes, I'm great at what I do. It's not necessarily because I'm the best, but it's because I'm probably the least stuffy version, like option out there. Um, could my business survive without me? Theoretically, yes. Um, am I ready for it to operate without me? I'd like to be. I just today and yesterday was like, I've got a client meeting tomorrow that's a 4-year tax prep. And I was looking at what's been done by my team, and I'm like, "Ugh, this is it was a team member I let go a couple weeks ago. So I took the project back and I have to get it done. So I've been working all day on it. And it's a mess. It's a mess. And for some reason, I can't be the only one in the world that has the ability to untangle a web of stuff like that right there. And there's more on the floor over here. I can't be the only one, but I'm not sure I trust my team to be able to do that right now because if I don't oversee it, I can't. It's such a mess. There has to be some oversight. So I'm not sure I'm ready to step away from my business. Also, I think I can work a little harder and a little longer and increase what the valuation of my business would be. So someone would have to really come in with a strong offer in order for me to want to sell because I see potential in the long term. Nate.
I think that's a mental block on you just because I know you. But I think you can absolutely step away from your business and it'll still operate the same way because I know how you hire. Then we have like 2 weeks ago, we talked about who we would hire and all these different things. So I think you can step away, but I think it definitely is a mental block when it comes to something being your baby and like Gary said, you having soul in a business and then kind of just selling it to anybody. I think that's where like theoretically, I think most business owners that have been in it for a while that understand a balance sheet, P&L statements, that understand how to maintain clients, how to build a team, how to build a culture and things around it so it operates without them can theoretically sell their business easily. But I also think that it comes down to, do I want this person to own my business? I think that's a harder thing to grasp because, like you said, like your name, no matter what, like for me, brand Legend Initiative brand is synonymous with Nate Dewar, right? So if I sell it and somebody else is using Legend Initiative and it looks crazy, it kind of reflects on me, even though I can obviously do PR, like that's not me, blah blah. But it's also like, why would you sell basically the soul of your company to somebody like that, right? Whether it's me operating or not, I just sold the business. Is like, but this business had an impact. It did this. It had a culture. It had soul, right? You just sold the soul of your business to somebody without it. And I think that reflects, like, if Abigail is like, Abigail, we know Abigail for one thing, right? We know, like, for those of you that do come every week that has booked a one on one with Abigail, y'all know who Abigail is. She can't sell to anybody, right? She can't maintain her client base or that brand persona because it's not going to look the same. Can she theoretically sell it? Can it? Does it look good in the books? Will it be profitable? Yes. But in terms of the long term, which I think most business owners should think of, it won't. Right? Will it look good for the first 5 years? Maybe. For the next 10 years, and then it'll be like, it wasn't the same as when she ran it. It wasn't the same as when they ran it. And if you are going to sell a business or even buy a business, that's always important, right? When I'm buying agency, I don't want, I want the strictly like easy, no real brand, or if they do have a brand, it needs to look like Legend Initiative because then we come in like, yo, we operate on the same thing, right? And that merger or acquisition looks a lot better rather than me going to buy something completely different brand. They don't care about innovation or culture or impact or whatever, and I'm buying it, and their clients is like, "Yo, we do this way." It's not going to mix. One for me and one for the company and the culture that I already built. So that's always important to consider.
So true. Kenny.
All right, so if you guys hear some huskies in the background, please don't mind. Um, but the first example that this question makes me think of is The Founder. You know, the movie about, McDonald's and Ray Kroc investing in this small local hamburger shop and then it becoming McDonald's, right? So I think from the perspective of the very first McDonald's, right? It was a couple of brothers, right, opening up this local shop, and they were selling burgers for I think like 15 cents or something like that. But the quality of the burger was like amazing, right? It's like here I am paying like a dime, right, for like really good food, a dime and a nickel, and it's like it's a bargain, right? And here comes Ray Kroc. He comes in, he sees how fast they make the burgers, right? And then he chooses to like invest in their company but make the philosophy all about the speed, right? And that's kind of how the whole umbrella of fast food began in the first place. um, and so making that the core identity of the company, the speed and how fast you can get the food caused them to sacrifice the quality that they had in their first initial product, right? And so over time, it's just McDonald's. Well, we know how they roll, right? They get a new product every now and then. They get a McRib, they get chicken McNuggets, they get, a next celebrity meal. Um, and that's what it is, right? It's like it's become a novelty, right? As opposed to the original vision, which was quality food at really affordable prices, right? So when the investor came in this situation, I think it wasn't exactly the vision of the original McDonald's brothers to become a fast food chain, right? Um, so I think it's a question of what are you willing to sacrifice, right? And is that even aligning with your initial vision before you give it away to an investor? And does the investor understand your core philosophy enough to keep that system and to keep what you ingrained in it for the long term?
Scary.
So there's a flip side to this as well, because there's definitely a lot of passion from everybody who has created businesses here. Um, Part of what I do is I help business owners exit and retire. And there's a local shop owner who's been running his shop here for more than 40 years. And he's in his 70s and he has been ready to exit his business for a while. Um, but he can't because the business is completely built on him. He has never trusted his employees enough to take the reins. When he goes on vacation, he shuts the whole thing down. Everybody goes on vacation because he's not there. Um, and he's tried to sell it a couple of times, and nobody will buy the blue sky of the business because it's not there, because he is the blue sky. He can sell his building, he can sell his equipment, he can sell his inventory. So you have to at some point realize that you are going to exit the business. You're either going to do it because you choose to, or you're going to get hit by a bus and you're not going to be there anymore. So if you have soul in your business, if you have a strong purpose, you're going to have to figure out how to instill that into the essence of the company and the people who are around you. And you can't maintain absolute control of it because the exit's going to come. And it may be that you're just ready to move on at some point. It may be that you get sick. It may be whatever it may be. But you have to think about it and plan for it. And where this particular gentleman is at, um, he can't get past letting the reins go. And the way it's going to go down is he's going to die, and then all of his stuff is going to be parsed out because he's never going to let go. And it's a decent little business. It could do just fine under somebody else, and the essential soul of it wouldn't change. He just won't let go, and he won't teach anybody his philosophy. So you kind of have to think about the succession one way or another.
That's an unfortunate story. But I get it at the same
Yeah.
time.
And
Heather.
it's not unusual for where I'm at. It's a fairly common occurrence for what I see for mechanics, machine shopists,
Mm,
HVAC companies. There's these
hmm.
small guys who think that if I don't do it, nobody else can do it right. And so they maintain this control. And that I think that's a flawed philosophy.
Yeah. Heather.
Yes, so I think that because I recently had to make a pivot with my business because I attempted to validate the idea and I found that it could not be validated. So I'm now pivoting towards a model what I did that will be Agentic AI. The initial startup idea for the company called Autistically Yours was a community where users could virtually rent out their time and skill set to teach life skills to people who were on the spectrum or neurodivergent. Because I was late in life diagnosed, but the unlock or insight that came after we tried to validate, and I just couldn't get people into the community was that b- a lot of people love the idea and think it would be really useful, but people who are neurodivergent often don't have any blueprint for what self-determination or self-actualization is for them. So any kind of course would most likely have to start with a 90-day ramp on what that means for them in particular. So I'm reframing it as agentic AI that can help them like build their environments, routines, and their habits to induce neuroplasticity. So it would be based on their sensory profiles. I have a lot of art in my office because I'm sensory seeking, intensely like sensory seeking, to the point where I can't really sit still. So I'm going to be building that out to help with the concept of neuroplastic design, but where interior design can basically fuel your baseline. And I feel like there's less overhead with this idea because it's AI based, and I would have a human supply chain and AI like running parallel, so that every checkpoint is both checked by a human and the AI is like I'm running underneath, and that way I wouldn't have to worry as much about the AI giving bad advice.
Definitely connect with Kenny,
It will do.
like 1,000%. Also, yes, AI and bad advice is like a whole subject too. Um,
Hmm.
Gary, I wanted to talk about that, like not releasing. I guess we're talking a lot about it anyway, but um, you really can't sell. I mean, he really, and the thing is, HVAC companies and mechanic shops, they go up for sale and they get bought out all the time by big conglomerates, and it's pretty easy. It's a pretty easy sell. But you can't sell a business if you can't step away from it.
Right.
Because ultimately, in a service-based business, you're selling your book of business. That's really what you're selling. That is your asset, is your accounts receivable on an annual basis. That's more or less what the valuation is built on. Um, I mean, I've got an HVAC client. He's got minimal assets, and mostly they're like for personal use. Like he's got a mobile office, it's his camper, but he's got a boom lift that helps him move stuff. And he's got like a dump trailer and a bobcat, a couple things like that that help him move things around. But it's not a heavy asset carrying business. Land is usually separate. If it even goes with the business, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's in addition to, or the owner continues and holds a lease on it because that's a good legacy retirement plan strategy. Um, but yeah, if you're unable to step away, and one of the things that I do, because I worry about quality control with my clients. So most of the time, or at least what I have been doing until recently, was hiring like recent college grads so that I could ensure they would do the work in a manner in which they would do the work exactly how I would train them to do it. Um, which has worked well for me for the most part. Except they don't stay with me very long because they're building foundations and they leave after a year or two. Um, which I love. But this time around, I hired a couple people who have more skills than I do, who are paying more attention to detail than I'm paying. So they're actually going to be increasing the quality than what I've been doing. So that was a big pivot shift for me. And then like I think I mentioned in the chat like there's some pattern breaking that's got to go on with me right now in order to break through this next level of growth. One of those things is definitely putting more serious effort and labor into what I'm doing. I have to pay more attention if my clients are going to get the service that they need. I have like more extensions to close out by September 15th than I've had in my 15 years. And it's new clients and or they're doing something different this year. It's not because I fell behind, it's because new opportunities have come. So I'm like, I'm in one of my busiest seasons of life in general right now. Um, so I have to be, in order for me to like get through to the next level, I have to really look at patterns. at my decision making and who I'm going to allow into my life, because a lot of times for me the patterns are I let people into my life that are a distraction. And so but sometimes there's good distractions and sometimes there are bad distractions. That's kind of a pattern I'm trying to work through. Um yeah, Miriam, you're on mute. Are you, oh, there you
Okay,
are.
I'm here.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm trying to not use my phone while I'm driving. Um, but I just wanted to, I was listening to everybody's discussions about the selling the business and so forth and kind of letting loose of the reins. And I kind of feel like it's similar to having a child that's growing up and you have to let them go at some point, to kind of fly on their own. But, having built something and then to just hand it over to somebody is not an easy thing to do. But at some point, I think that we as business owners have to think, well, think down the road, I'm gonna pass away one day or retire or whatever the case is. What's going to happen to this business? Am I just going to shut it down one day and that's it? Or am I going to train somebody maybe to potentially take it over? In my case, family member is where I would like to go to kind of keep it in the family and grow that generational wealth kind of thing. Something that I didn't have with my parents, that they had always talked about starting a business and, owning a business, but they never got to that point. So I kind of see myself as the next generation. I have this business and, what's going to happen after I'm incapable or decide to just step away. So somebody else has to get trained, or that thought of planning where where the business is going to go after I let go of it, so to speak. And I've had some other associates that have had, in this case, insurance agency or financial services agencies that wanted to retire. I mean, they're in their 70s. They should be enjoying some kind of retirement after all the hard work that they did, 20, 30 years in the business. But they weren't really sure of what they were going to do once they retired. So some of them will step away, actually sell the business, but step away for, the 6 months or 5 months or whatever it is, and then come back as a consultant for that business or come back as a um, part-time contributor to that business or a board member, something like that. And that way they still have their foot on what's going on in the business, but they're not kind of stressed with the everyday happenings of the business, but you still have some kind of involvement in it. Well, just a thought.
Yeah. I want to expand on that a little bit. What I've seen, so for one, if you sell, you can be a consultant, but you ultimately don't have any control. So if you're staying on board to like keep, because you're not really ready to let go, then you shouldn't sell because you're gonna have like a mental breakdown because the buyer has the decision making abilities at the end of the day. But something to consider is like maybe you sell off an equity share where you sell 51%, so you still have like you don't have control, but your opinion is valued still, and so it matters when you show up or not. Um, but you're giving decision making abilities and financial responsibility over to somebody else. Gary.
So I've been kind of waiting for Kenny to weigh in on this because he's in a long-term transfer of ownership situation that is well thought out. I'm just curious how if he has any input there.
Kenneth.
Yeah. So I've been trying to think carefully about it. because it's not exactly like a Ray Kroc situation, right? I've been kind of working with Atlas for a long time now. I've got a good handle on like the philosophy, right, which is essentially treating clients like family, right? Like if they need help with something, no matter what service it is, you show up, you're present, and you genuinely see how you can help, right? And then from there, you're a collaborative partner, right? And so with that in mind, typically the way that the conversation goes with my mentor, the founder of Atlas, Kevin, um, is he's in a way like investing in me, right? Um, so having our team in place, right, that's already set, right? And then having that workflow, right, typical discovery call, right, outlining the project, wireframing, execution, that's also set in stone, right? So the only real question is, how do I honor Kevin with his knowledge, right? So that's essentially what he's investing is mainly knowledge, right? As opposed to, money. Um, so yeah, he's really just pouring into me in terms of his background of working with a whole bunch of different industries, right? How to approach, keeping me up to date on what's new in each industry with pertinent information, relevancy. Um, and that all kind of contributes to creating the next quote unquote Kevin, right? So if he were an investor handing off Atlas to me, he already understands that it would be in good hands, right? Because everything that he's taught me is just everything that I would implement, right, moving forward. Um, so yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents on the topic is if you are handing off to an investor, make sure that you can at least train them in a way, right? Introduce them to who you are, the idea of the company, um, and your philosophy behind it, right? Because I'm sure Abigail would still want Old Woods to run in a similar way, right? Where it's still kind of catering to her niche, right? That she's established, right? Which is cannabis, that industry, because it's so deeply ingrained in her client base and who she is as a person that without it, it's like, is it even Old Woods? So this is all food for thought.
Before I pass it to Danny, I do just want to say it's pretty standard operating procedure to include like these sort of things in a contract when you're selling. Um, I don't know how enforceable they are, but I've seen them in every contract I've done. Because ultimately it's almost like it's worth more to the owner at the end of the day, like the brand culture, than the money. It depends on the seller, of course, especially in the cannabis world. There are many who came here just to build something and sell it. So they didn't really have heart and soul in it. They just wanted the dollars. But still, I've seen them stay on board and usually even the buyer will want them to stay on board to make sure they're not missing any operational stuff, even if they have another perfectly vertically integrated or another, let's say, cannabis retail store 30 miles away. They know the licensing requirements and the compliance and stuff like that, but they don't know that business. They don't know how to get into the safe. They don't know how to run the timers on the cultivation lights. They don't know, how to run this specific equipment or where to get this item or whatever it is, or in some cases too, you've got customers that have specific needs. So they usually want it just as much as you want it, like a 3 to 6 month consulting contract with the buyer and the seller. Danny.
So, for me, like I wanted to, like when you were talking about, well, a few people shared the fact that sometimes selling the business, either there's that part that is hard to let go, or sometimes that it's hard to, you know, kind of pass over the philosophy or the business. I think also there's a part that is related to leadership, right? Like whenever you're growing a business, I think it should also be in the mindset, like how you're gonna pass on, you know, um, either to your children, or if you're planning to sell the business, how are you gonna teach to the next person, right? Um, the philosophy or the skills within that business. And I think that is part of the leadership. You should also think about it. Like, if I am not there, right, that it should still be able to function without me. So I'm not there yet in what I'm doing because I'm also just starting, but I do want to keep that in mind as my own business is growing, because I wouldn't want it to stop um, if one day I'm gone. It's cross our fingers. I don't want to be gone anytime soon. But I'm also seeing it with my parents because they also have a business themselves, right? And even though I am not involved in their business, I could see that they're trying to us to share any knowledge and skills that they have in their business. So if one day we want to take it over, we don't feel that we're losing or that they're losing that vision that they had originally. Even if when you're going to take it on, you have your own vision of how you want it to run, right? Which is normal. Um, but I was also thinking about, like, okay, for what I am doing right now, what I do is that I help people um, with their debt. So um, we're looking at their debt, we analyze and see what's their income, whatever, and see how they can pay it off faster without having to change their lifestyle. And I also is a real estate investor. And I also want to keep that in mind to say, how can I'm helping people, but I'm passing it on to
We lost you.
see how it can be kind of duplicable.
Oh,
Okay.
you're back.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. I'm trying to pronounce duplicable. Uh, the right word, right? Um, so, but I think for me, leadership in a business, like, is very important. And if you're thinking about leadership, you should see how you're passing on whatever knowledge or skills you have to either employees, if you have, or to the next generation that will potentially take over.
Agreed. Nate?
Mine is more so a question. I think that I would like to ask everyone. Um, if you were to sell your business right now, what would be like the main selling point of that business? Would it be numbers? Would it be values, the culture? Would it be the system, the model, whatever it is? Like, what would be the main selling point of your business to a potential buyer?
Heather.
So even though it's not ready yet, I'm gonna share like what I believe the main interest would be if I wanted to sell. And I think it's because it's an agentic AI that's trained on like a sensory profile that opens up a wide audience of users for who are neurodivergent, and it kind of reframes interior design as an asset that can kind of grow. So you're building with the intent of like rewiring your brain. So that kind of becomes an investment in your future. So I think that for me, at least, if I was buying a business, that would be the main appeal alongside the culture. Because I want the culture to be very inclusive, very welcoming, kind of about like we're here to work for your brain and not like medical gaslighting, because I've been like gaslit in medical settings like about my sensory profiles. So it's more about like like we're here to work with you, and it's like I want the idea to be, if we can't help you, it's not that you're doing anything wrong, it's that our tech has to catch up with your needs.
I love that. Innovative and transparent. Um, Nate, can you drop the question in the chat? What would the main selling point be? I think it's really hard for me to say that. I mean, I know what people would think I would say, which would be the cannabis clientele element, um, which is a fun industry. It's been fun. Everything's gonna change. Everything, it's been a moving target. So probably everything that I've specialized in will probably be null and void in the next 6 months, to be honest with you. Um, so there's gonna be a pivot inbound, but I'll have, when you pick a niche, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, like if there's specialties about it or not. It's just a chosen point to market towards. So I'll still serve them, even if all of the regulation tax-wise goes away. And probably my historical knowledge and experience working with it will give me an edge on anybody else who comes in after the compliance regulations go away. Um, I lost another employee. I haven't lost her yet, but she's leaving soon. And I've heard this before, like repeatedly, and it's such a great honor. But internally speaking, I've been called like the best boss people have ever worked for. And I think that I've done that intentionally. One, because I don't want people to leave. I mean, that's obvious. Um, but I had one employment experience in all my years before starting my business that I actually liked. Um, and that was at a restaurant in North Jersey. And the manager at the front of the house, it was a New York Times rated restaurant. It was just very like the employee culture was it felt like the number one priority. And they kept everybody happy. And it wasn't even about like pay. It was about working at a company that like was innovative, it had values, they invested in us. Like we read books together. Oh, we're serving tables at a restaurant, but it wasn't like an Irish pub style. It was like we actually care about the food that we're serving and like how can we actively be better every day. Team meetings all the time. It was really like the culture was everything, and that kind of shaped how I show up for my clients, and it shaped how I show up for my team. So my team, I tell them I just hired, the two new people, and I told them family is always gonna come first. Nothing we do is really an emergency. Yeah, we have deadlines, but we know about them in advance. If you need to spend time with your family, like it's why everybody's part-time. They can be flexible, they can come and go. It's remote work. Like if you have kids' doctor's appointments, like cool, thank you for telling me. I don't care. Go and take care of it. Like and they love that and they stay because of it. So I guess like company culture would be something really important for me if I sold it. Because you're not gonna get that with like the old school CPAs that are really uptight. Gary,
I apologize if it's loud. There's a helicopter landing behind me here. Um, the
landing?
ranch, yeah, the rancher next to me uses helicopters to blow off the water on cherries when it rains. It keeps them from swelling and bursting. So,
Can you show us?
ah, can you guys see that?
No.
He's he's just touched down. Blades are just starting to stop.
I love your porch.
You know. Anyway,
Amazing.
it gets really loud when he takes off or lands. But
And the kids' art on the sidewalk is cool too.
yeah, that's the grandkids. They like to come out and have fun. So
Oh, I would not have pegged you to be old enough to have grandkids, so good.
I am. I appreciate the compliment though. So Abby, I just wanted to make a comment on the cannabis because that's a spot where you gained traction, but that's not actually the purpose of why you do what you do. you're more focused on making sure that people don't get screwed in an area that they could be, and that there's opportunity. You're more about building that framework, and cannabis happens to be a piece of it at this point in time. But I don't think that that's your purpose. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're absolutely right.
So it's not your, as Simon Sinek would say, your why, or as Nate's been trying to get me to do, why. Um, Yours is more focused on being tax capable, and not just filing, but taking care of all the opportunities, and not leaving anything on the table.
To put it very bluntly, which I'm very good at, fuck the IRS and the government in general, okay? And integrity.
Mm-hmm.
And doing that with integrity, but showing up for my clients with integrity. I don't know if you remember the story I've told once before where I left this one client and had to pull over halfway home because I was like, I wasn't sure if I was dehydrated or having an actual panic attack. And I was not dehydrated, and I was having an actual panic attack because the previous CPA was if they're not a big four, they're number five. Okay. CBiz is the name of the firm. I'm not even afraid to say it. They charged this client $65,000 for 1 year, and they were duplicating entries. They were missing hundreds of thousands of dollars in expenses. It's cannabis. They were not following any of the compliance requirements, and they were charging him premium dollar, and he got shit service. I mean, garbage. I had to rebuild everything. And I left that client when I uncovered like usually when I pick up a client, I'll determine like a hard start date, like a cutoff. Like I'm not gonna look back. Otherwise, like you'll always uncover a can of worms. So if the taxes are filed, you don't look at it unless they want you to. And they weren't filed for 2024 specifically. And I couldn't believe the way that they were treating him. It was because he was cannabis, so they were taking advantage of him financially, overcharging. They knew that he wasn't paying attention, didn't really understand, so they were taking it, they put someone unskilled on his project, and he didn't know any better. All he knew was that it was hard to communicate with them. That's what he was experiencing. And he was happy to pay multiple six figures in taxes because he thought that was going to keep him out of jail. And he didn't understand that, like, no one had had conversations with him about overpaying taxes can also put you in jail. If you're lying or missing things, like, yeah, they'll have to pay you back, but they're also going to be like, why are you doing this? And they'll look at you. And if you are paying extra because you're doing black market activity, like, it's two sides of the same coin. You can overpay, so they look the other way, but then they'll be like, why is he overpaying? I'm not going to look the other way. There's criminal activity going on here. But yeah, anyway, integrity and fuck the government. Overall, doesn't matter who's running it, fuck them. That's not a political statement. That is a value, moral value. Danny.
Yeah, like I really like the last question that was asked about like the main selling point. And for me, I think the big thing is service, right? Not just serving clients, but also, whoever get to be associated with my business. I think helping others is very important because I believe that whenever you grow, you should help people around you grow. And it's not just, let's say I share whatever knowledge and skill I have with someone and they want also themselves grow their own business. Um, I should be more than happy to support and help them grow the business whenever we are in the same niche. It shouldn't be a competition. It should be that if I succeed, you should be able to also succeed in whatever you do. So I think for me, that's the main selling points, that I'm helping others whenever clients or other people that want to be in that same niche or field that I choose to be in, and that if I'm successful, they can also be successful because we're working together and helping each other.
I love that principle as well.
Mm.
I think it's so important. All right, it's that time. Kenny?
Yeah, I've been waiting for this one. All right, so so everybody, typically for the newcomers here, every week we have a quote that aligns with the theme of the conversation. So this week's quote comes from Zig Ziglar. And this kind of encapsulates whether you're investing in your team, partnering with an investor, or investing in your system for the long term, right? So he says, you don't build a business, you build people, and then people build the business. And with that said, I will pass it back to our host, Abby.
Love that, Kenny. Um, I'm gonna leave us with like a thought, a homework thought. Um, I'd like you all to think about what your legacy plan is. What's your exit strategy? Are you planning to exit? What is your plan? Do you have one? I'll tell you, I am planning to retire. I'm planning to set my business up to be recurring residual income and for it to retire me and not to sell it. If I find someone to leave it to when I die, then we'll get there. But for now, that's my plan. Um, the meeting's recorded. It'll be up on YouTube. I dropped the link in the chat above. The historical are on YouTube. It's also on Spotify. If you didn't know that, it is on Spotify. Um, and yeah, that's all, I guess. We'll talk more about this next week. I'll send a link out. You'll be on my email list. So I'll send like that 15-minute reminder out too if you lose it. It's the same Zoom link every week though, 7 p.m. Eastern.
Should throw the Discord link in.
Yep, I did drop it above too.
Is it in there?
Sometimes they expire though.
Okay.
Definitely join the Discord. It's a fun way to stay connected to everybody. All right, guys. Good night. Thank you. See you next week.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Have a good night, everybody.
Good
Abby,
night,
always
everybody.
a pleasure. The
Have a
new
good
people,
night.
happy to see you guys. Hope to see some of y'all next week.
Bye.
Good night.
You. Bye bye.